Here we are on along Swan Pond Road at the site of the second worst domestic environmental disaster in American history, next to the Exxon Valdez in Alaska. This is the coal ash pile, and right over there is the clinch in the Emory River and the TVA coal plant. But we just wanted y'all to see this scene, so we drove way down in here in these mountain roads to get a real close-up look at it. So that's it, right there. This used to be a cove. Now it's full of coal ash from the coal plant. All right. Yeah.
Satellite shot here. All right, I can make it slightly larger, but it pixelates as we get bigger. But that is the pond that failed right there. Okay. Here's the plant. These are the old soccer fields, and there were the successive settling ponds and so on. When you look out the door, you see this right here. Okay. Okay. And we are sitting. We are.
Right there, probably.
Yeah, that's us. We're that building right there. Anyway, when this thing went, what it did, that wall and this wall collapsed, and that wall, that's a ridge. It went up against the ridge and came back. This blew out, and it completely blew up. And filled that gorge, that cove in right there. And then the stuff blew out this way, and it took off. That chunk of land right there isn't there anymore. It's gone. It's spread out into the river. Now this stuff, you have to realize, we're talking about a geological event here. It wasn't a spill. Okay, here's the permits are not holding anybody up. Permits are not required. There is a federal emergency order. There is a Tennessee emergency order to get this going. There are approvals necessary, but they're more in where they can put this stuff than any dredging. They are not holding dredging up. The TVA simply cannot mobilize fast enough on their end because they have to prepare the site where the dredgeate, where the goop is going to go to be dewatered. All right, and that site that's the old soccer fields on the TVA site. So what's actually holding it up is there is no bureaucracy holding it up. It's TVA simply has to take a certain amount of time to get their stuff going. They can't get the dredges in here but so fast anyway. It's just physically it takes time to move stuff in. And if they're blaming TDEC or anybody else on permits or approvals, that simply is not correct.
Okay.
Not correct.
We'll straighten that out then. All right.
Okay. And have done a tremendous amount of work actually on what they've done. They haven't been sitting on their rear ends. They've actually been doing a lot. But that is about a third of the ash pond. It's gone. It used to stretch all the way across there.
Okay.
All right. And you're looking at when the side blew out, it went this way. The point of land that I pointed out earlier that used to be there, that's gone, is pushed on out into here. And with the water a little bit lower, you can see some tree stumps and all that stuff on the far horizon. But there were 3 houses right across from here that were actually physically affected. You can see the hay, you can see the ivy green they're spraying on there. The biggest threat to this stuff, as far as I'm concerned, right now is going to be airborne. It sent a small tidal wave across here, and you can actually look up and tell that the leaf cloud is gone off this bank. You know, that's been scoured. You know, there's nothing there.
So you had a tidal wave hit here.
Yeah, it just came over here into these people's yard. It knocked those docks down. I talked to one gentleman. I went out there and said, "Golly, you know, it had a big mess out there." I said, "Well, it ruined your dock, didn't it?" He says, "Well, that's not my dock. I don't know where that one came from." Mine, it's up the creek, so not really that funny. Right, it's your dock. Yeah. But there you go. Type of thing. They were ready if we had a terrorist attack. They weren't ready for an ordinary old disaster. Right. You know, the other story is, since they had no contingency plan, they've wasted a lot of time. I mean, I look at this thing as, you know, an ongoing disaster. Right. It just started December 22nd, and if we get a big rain event, we've had a 30,000 CFS event. You know, historically we've had 280,000 CFS events, although that's, you know, that's unlikely. That's a 100-year flood. Right. But we're due for one of those. You know? Right. If we do that, the Emory River channel is going to be clear. It's going to wash itself right out into Scarborough Lake, and you know, you don't have to be real good at arithmetic to think about how many acres can be covered a foot deep in ash. Essentially, you could wipe out most of Scarborough Lake as far as productivity for, you know, who knows how long. We don't know what the stuff does and how it reacts and how the macroinvertebrates do, you know, the insect larvae that everything else lives on. You know, what happens to them. We know we got 6 miles of biological desert now. Could we have 30 miles of it? Right. You know, those are questions we don't know. And then, you know, it's a multi-stage process. Is TVA going to truly compensate everybody that's been affected? You know, in TVA's mind, they've taken care of those houses that were physically affected right off the bat. But we've got serious economic impacts that have happened. You know, everybody in Roane County is affected. Right. Every business, every real estate, everybody who's trying to sell their house. You know, I personally am having economic effects from that. Right. I'm just glad that I had some resources, you know, and I didn't have to take my kid out of school. Other people aren't that lucky. There's some people who are in serious economic problems because they can't sell their old house to buy their new house. You know, the people whose houses the TVA didn't buy, you know, they're sucking wind. They're just sitting there. You saw all the for sale signs that are just sitting there, just rows of them.
Might as well take it up to the end and sell it. Right.
And I talked to one lady, a retired couple, and they took their money and bought a fixer-upper on the lake. You know, it's just out of the primary impact zone, and they were planning on putting it on the market in May. And they're saying, "Who's going to buy our house now?" Yeah. You know, you can't use the dock.
It kind of reminds me of New Orleans after Katrina.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bit, you know.
Yeah. But this is different. You know, the question is, are we being forgotten? You know, I just talked to a guy in Colorado. He said, "You know, nobody's hearing anything about that right now." And I said, "Well, if I had anything to say about it, every time anybody mentions the term clean coal, they ought to get a little sick on their stomach. You know, it's just not there." And people that, now that you've seen it, I mean, you've seen it after it's been knocked down and leveled off a good bit, but you have no idea what an event of geological magnitude this thing was. Right. It's really.
So it's calling it the second worst domestic environmental disaster in American history. Is that?
I don't have any problem with that. You know, and it's still happening. We don't know. You know, biologically, the Exxon Valdez is certainly by far the most significant. No question about it. You know, as far as volume of material, this is a massive amount of material. Right. You know, and it's a miracle that we didn't have anybody dead. That's just staggering. I mean, you get to talking to some of the guys who are on site at TVA, and some of them, they're visibly shaken.
Okay, I think we got what we need, man. Thanks so much.
Well, thanks for coming out.
Yeah.
Get the word out.